Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. It's been a bit. It's been a little while. It was about early December since the last time I recorded. And, lots been going on, and I will get into that. But I appreciate you being here and coming and visiting with me. Today is January 24th, 2024. It's 1/24/24 today. And I'm coming to you from just outside of Portland, Oregon, where today is a bit stormy, a bit rainy, which is fine. We had some snow, which was wonderful. We ended up with about 10 inches of snow, which is quite a bit for us. And then we had ice storms right after that. So everything got coated in about a 1/4 inch of ice. And so our snow stuck around for quite a while. Just before the snow hit, Jim and I both got COVID. He brought it home from work. It's our first time getting it, so I feel pretty fortunate that way. And it was really like a bad cold. Like, you felt pretty crappy, but it wasn't anything that you couldn't manage. But it really knocked the wind out of me. I still have some congestion from it, so hopefully I won't be sniffing or coughing too much. It's been a couple of weeks since I came down with it, and it's just been this slow progression of getting better. But I am getting better. Jim went back to work a week or so ago. I was still testing positive for a long time, finally tested negative, and I could finally go get my hair cut, which I did yesterday. Oh, which felt so good. When I was scheduled to have my hair cut, and then I got COVID, so I had to cancel it. And I postponed it for a week, and I was still testing positive, so I canceled it again. When you have short hair, 2 extra weeks on your haircut, especially I have thick hair, and it was getting quite the fro going. But it felt good to get my hair cut yesterday. It was the first time I drove anywhere since about New Year's. And so that was really nice because I couldn't get out with my car. We had too much snow, and I just have a little car, so I didn't go anywhere. And I was fine. But I did manage to do quite a bit of crafting. And so yeah, I want to share all that stuff with you. While I was kind of down, I was feeling better enough. I did some bread baking. I baked some bread, and I also tried my hand at making soft pretzels. Now, I've had this recipe for a little while, and I thought, I really want to try that. I love soft pretzels, and, let me just give that a try. And it went fine. They tasted good, but I just, as a PSA for those of you, little chemical reaction happened. You make the dough, and then you dunk it in you form your pretzel, and then you dunk it in a bath of water and baking soda. So the recipe says, boiling water, add the baking soda to that, do your dunk. So I was like, okay, my pretzels weren't very big. They just looked like little turds, really. They were just little logs. And so I didn't have a really big pan, had my water boiling, dumped the baking soda in, and it just did like this volcanic eruption. All it was baking soda and boiling water. So I wasn't expecting it. And it was just baking soda, so it cleaned up, but it took a bit because you clean and you think you got it all. And then when everything dries, you still see the white streaks. So it left quite a bit of a mess. I had just enough water left over in the pot that didn't spill over that I was still able to continue with my pretzels, and I was successful. They tasted good. I don't think it's worth the effort that I went through to get them done, but I at least tried it. I've done a lot of let's just try and see if this works. And I've had a lot of fails, but I will share that with you in a second. So, don't pour baking soda in boiling water unless you have ample room for it to have a volcanic eruption. Just my PSA for you today. Hopefully you can see that I finished my mini plaidish quilt. That was a quilt that I was just slowly working on when I was getting together with my friends doing our little online sewing group. It is a quilt pattern by Kitchen Table Quilts, and it's a free pattern if you sign up for the newsletter. which I did to get the pattern, and I used my stack of Moda Bella solids that I had purchased when I went to Houston to Quilt Market, and it was Cozy, I think was the stack. I don't know. So it's kind of a muted rainbow. I love it. I got some fabric to put a border around it, but it didn't really go, so I'm not going to border it. I'm just going to quilt it. And I think I'm going to use that fabric for the binding. It's not for anyone. It was just to make it, and I really enjoyed making it. It's a really easy pattern to do, and I think the look is nice. I wouldn't mind making another one and just playing with even like something kind of monochromatic would look really cool. And I think you would really see the plaid look that it has. So that one's done. The top's done. Like I said, I still have to quilt it, but I got backing fabric the other day and I'm ready to go. I'm just going to do a pantograph on it because it's just how I roll these days. Doesn't need custom quilting. It just needs something to put it all together. And then you can also hopefully see that I started my Starry Nights Legit Kits quilt kit. So this is what it's gonna look like. And so what you're seeing up there is up here, and I'm working on this final piece. You piece all the little pieces together. It is foundation paper piecing, which means you're sewing right onto the paper, tear the paper away later. And the pattern has you make blocks, which are about the size of a piece of paper. So I've got one more block to go here, and then that top row's done. So it's not a very big quilt. It's like 30 by 40. So this will be 40 and 30 this way. So getting over here, the pieces are getting smaller, and I found that it is taking me longer to put them together because there's a lot more pieces to this block. So they have you start here where the pieces are nice and big and you're like, yep, I'm getting in my groove. And now I'm over here and doing little things. This is going to be pretty intense because that's lots of little tiny, teeny tiny pieces. But you know what? It's one piece at a time. I did organize my fabrics. I should have brought that over. Hang on a second. Okay, so I organized my fabrics according to a tutorial that I watched from Cranky Kangaroo. She's Cranky Kangaroo on Instagram. I'm pretty sure that's her YouTube. I'll link it down below, but her name is Jamie. She does a ton of these legit kits. They have some really fabulous patterns, and she's an ambassador for them because she does so many of them. And she usually does 2 at a time, which I think is a bit insane, but you know, whatever. I don't know what she does with 2, but she does 2. So she had a tutorial on how to organize all your fabrics. I have 105 different colors of fabric that go into the quilt. Now they're not, and the kit comes with everything, and sometimes the pieces are only this big because you're just going to use a little teeny bit. You got to organize it. So particularly this quilt, there's a lot of blue, and there's a lot of different shades of blue that are really close, but it helps give you the shading. So if you just had this stack of fabric, it would be really hard to know which blue you're pulling. So the fabric all had labels on it with a letter code. And so following her guidelines on how to set this up, I made like a fabric book. So I punched holes, tied it together with some yarn. I took the stickers off of the fabric and put it on the edge of the papers so that when I'm going to go piece something and say it said, you know, you need color AO, I will pull to this page, pull color AO, which is this one, do my piecing, put it back here, and keep it all together because like I said, you've got all these blues, and really there's sometimes I thought, did I pull the right blue? Because it looks the same, and you hold them up under the light, you're like, no, they're a little bit different. So I've got all my fabrics like this, and I just keep flipping through. Now she has She does it just a little bit different after she's made this because she's making 2 quilts, and I didn't go to that step. So I just keep flipping back and forth and just pulling whatever letter I need, and then I get to that fabric. And sometimes they're just little pieces, and I can throw what's left over in there, and it all stays really nice. And it's probably it's probably not the most efficient. It is efficient, but because I'm like, take that piece of fabric out, cut what I need, do my piecing, fold that fabric, put it back. I'm handling that fabric several times, but it's okay. She's more into like production sewing, so she's got it very streamlined. I didn't need to do that because I'm just making the 1 quilt. So I'm working on it when I get together with my sew group online, and I'm enjoying the process. Like I said, it's slow, and paper piecing isn't fast, but I think the end quilt's going to be pretty darn cool. So I'm excited that I'm almost done with, once I get this row done, that's a quarter of it because there's only 4 of those rows. So if it's 16 blocks in total, so if I get this 4th one done, that's 25% done. Now, as I go along, like I said, as these pieces get tinier, it goes a little slower, but that's okay. I gave myself the year to do it. It is by Legit Kits, and like I said, they've got all kinds of really cool patterns. So I'm moving forward and just doing it little bits at a time. And I'm sure I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to feel like I need to take a break and just sew something simple. And I have some ideas for that. I'm full of ideas. I just don't have the time or sometimes the knowledge on how to make things work. So that's been my sewing, my quilting. During the COVID and the recovery of that, I had very low energy, and I would some days it was like just taking a shower made me feel like I needed to take a nap. So I would do a little bit of something, and I'm like, okay, that's all I've got in me. I've got to just go like veg and just sit. I didn't knit the whole first week. I didn't do anything because I really just did not have the energy for it, and I just didn't feel good, super congested and stuff. So now I want to talk about my knitting adventures, and hopefully you've noticed possibly that I might be wearing an FO. So when I started to feel better enough that I felt like I could knit, I thought, what am I going to do? Do I just need to do this, that? I pulled out my Hit to Few Day. Now, those of you that have been around a while know I've started this a couple of years ago at least, maybe longer, I'm not sure. And I stalled out on it because I don't enjoy knitting lace for long periods of time, and this sweater is entirely lace. So I petered out on it. But it is done. I still have ends to weave in because I was done, I blocked it, and I'm like, I'm putting it away. I don't even want to look at it. But I am wearing it. I'm not loving the fit. Now I know it's supposed to have this kind of, what do they call it? A waterfall front, whatever. I feel like this is too short. I keep wanting to pull it down. But, it's plenty long enough in the back. And I don't love how the neckline is fitting. It's almost like maybe it's just too small. I don't know. I have a couple of drop stitches under here that I need to fix somewhere. But it's done. It's done enough for me to feel like I was done and I could put it away. And I'm like, now I can free up that bag because I had it in one of my scrappy angel bags that I wanted to use, and I wouldn't allow myself to pull the project out of it to use the bag because I really wanted to have some kind of motivation to finish it. Now the yarn is, what is it? It's like alpaca, silk, merino, magic. I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff in it like that. I got it as undyed yarn as a birthday present from my friend Michelle, and I dyed it. And so I do like it. I'm not in love with it. I'm really in love with the fact that it's done-ish. I have to weave in the ends, like I said, but that's not a big deal. Yeah, you can see that dropped a couple stitches there. I'll just tie those in, but it's done. It's very soft and it feels very nice. It's not super hot, which is nice. I'm not sure. I'm gonna give it, I don't know, because see, like, this just doesn't, I feel like this should be straighter and it wants to pull and give me this weird thing. So whatever, it's done. And that's the most important thing. So congratulations to me, a little pat on the back that I stuck with it, because I really did not enjoy working on this sweater, but I finished it. So once I got that finished, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm free to cast stuff on, because I've always felt guilty if I've cast on something new, because I'm like, oh, I shouldn't cast on anything new. I have this sweater I have to finish, and I like do a row or two and I'm like, I'm over it. And so it just felt like I'm free. I can cast everything on. Plus Michael gave me permission. Michael over at Piece for Piece Crafting, he said, cast everything on if you want. Okay. I think I will. Something that I think I talked about last time were mitts that I was working on that I did finish, and I made them convertible. So I have a convertible mitt. This is yarn by Fiber Hustle. It is a 100% Targhee worsted 3-ply. And this is Cherry Blossoms, which I don't think he has in the shop anymore. This Targhee feels lovely. Really feels nice. It's soft. It's just good. I love it. So I used the World's Simplest Mittens by Tin Can Knits and the gauge or whatever for worsted. I knit until I got to where I could do the ribbing right at my knuckles here. And then I followed Caleb over at Drowning in Yarn, has a YouTube channel, and he does some tutorials. And he did a tutorial about how to pick up stitches. You just pick up stitches and basically knit the top separate, and then it just folds over. I don't feel like I need a button or anything, because it's not going anywhere. It's just there. And I was so excited to finally have snow, and we got snow and ice, and we were like 15 degrees. It was super, super cold, which we don't get that often. I was really excited, but I was sick and didn't go outside. So I didn't get to use my mitts in the snow. We finally got snow. And I didn't get to use them. But I'm sure we'll have other cold days and I'll get to use them. But I love this yarn. I really wish that they made this in like a lighter weight, because I would love a sweater out of this. But anyway, very nice. I did do a project page. I am really going to try hard to do project pages. I'm trying. The hesitation I have, like, I know a lot of people will start a project, put it on Ravelry, and you're like, this is the yarn I'm using, you know, but this pattern and all that stuff. And I have a tendency to not do that, because quite a few times I'll get going on something and I'm like, yeah, this just isn't for me. And so I would have a whole bunch of stuff that was just showing us being frogged. And it's like, no, I need to make sure I'm actually gonna stick with this, that I'm actually gonna like it. Because, for instance, I started the Cobblestone cowl, which I shared last time or whatever, where you take yarn and crochet over the Malabrigo Rasta. And it looked really cool, but I'm not loving how mine's looking. So I'm going to take it out. So if I had done a project page saying, I'm going to make this, I'd be like, frogging that one again. And it's just the way it is for me. I am willing to try things, and it may interest me, and then I get going on it. It's like, yeah, it's really not fun, or I don't like the color, or whatever it is. And then it's like, nope, go take it out, do something else. So I will be tearing this out, because I am gonna find something, and maybe I just need to do. I thought maybe I just need to do like a orange or a yellow instead of a dark color. I just feel like it muted it down. I don't know. It just wasn't something I was gravitating towards wanting to work on. I also finished Jim's crochet blanket. I was working on that. And he goes, is it done yet? And I said, I do you say you still want it longer? I said, try it. He goes, no, I think it's good now. So I'm like, cool. Pull that thread out, weave that in. He's done. He's got it. He has been using it. I think he feels pressure to use it because I've told him many times, and I've shared with you guys on here, that he's not really knit worthy, crochet worthy, because he doesn't wear the stuff that I make him. Whatever. It's his deal. Whatever. I have spent quite a bit of time trying to knit a sweater on my knitting machine. So I've talked about having a knitting machine. I have a Brother flatbed machine, and I have used it. I got it like 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I think. 5 years ago, something like that. And I've knit a few things. I've got a ribber attachment, which is like another flatbed that attaches to it so I can knit in the round. And I've done sock tubes, which is fabulous because I don't enjoy knitting socks anymore like I used to. But I've really wanted to knit a sweater on it. And I was finding that I would get going and it would go for a while and then it would just jam up. And it was like, I don't understand. And I've been battling that pretty much since I got it. And I've cleaned everything. I've made sure all the little levers and things are working. I watched a video that showed, it's called The Answer Lady is who they are, and they repair knitting machines, and they'll say, oh, if this is happening, this is what you can do. And they suggested this like silicone lubricant type of thing, and I'd spray that on and work a little bit, and then it would just jam up again, and I would get super frustrated. I'm like, I can't knit anything for very long because it just jams up. So I'd put it away and get busy doing something else. But I'm determined. I really, really want to knit a sweater on it. So I was taking it all apart again. Let me just look and make sure there's not something here or there. I replaced all the needles, which I did have a few latches that were sticky, and like, let me just replace the needles. That's the only thing I haven't taken care of. So did that. And then I watched another video when it was a lady that was cleaning one up, because they're old machines. They're from the 70s, 80s. Sometimes they go back to the 50s, but generally most people have stuff from like the 70s and 80s. Mine's probably an 80s machine. And she suggested lubricating with gun oil. And I'm like, okay, I know where I can get that. Ran to the store, got some gun oil, oiled everything up, oiled all the needles, the little latches, all the things, and it's working like a dream. So the lubricant that I was using wasn't lubricating in the right way, I guess. And just using that gun oil on a rag, like it just puts that little bit of oil. Because I kept hearing like, oil your machine. I'm like, I'm oiling it. I'm doing all the things. But I wasn't using the right product. It's knitting beautifully. So I'm like, okay, good. So now I'm going to knit a sweater. So I found a pattern generator that was a different person than the one that I used to make my swanchos that I showed in previous episodes. And I thought, okay, it makes like a V-neck, and it's not, you don't add any ribbing. It just is like you cast it off and you just have like the rolled edge or whatever. I'm like, fine. That's fine. And I was doing it, and then what happened? I don't know. Something happened. It wasn't working. I don't remember. I think I was trying to do it before I found the whole oil trick situation. So then I thought, screw it. I have some DK weight yarn that I want to knit something with. I'll use my other machine. So I have another Brother machine that's a mid gauge. So my standard machine knits up to like a fingering weight. And unfortunately with these machines is each like needle size, so to speak, it is a separate machine. So my mid gauge is like up to worsted. It can do Aran, but it's a little chunky. So up to worsted, because the needles are bigger, they're spaced further apart, so your gauge is bigger. And I can knit fingering weight, but it's really loose gauge because it's like knitting fingering weight, like say on a 7 or 8, where the gauge is really loose. So I thought, okay, I have some DK weight yarn, and it was this remix by Barocco, which is like cotton and linen and Silken Magic again, and I thought, okay, let me try that. Well, my mid gauge, because the needles are spread apart a little bit further, only it has a smaller number of needles on it. So this pattern, because it was V-neck, I thought I could have it knit it half and half. Originally thinking down the line it would be fun to do like 2 separate color kind of a thing and just mattress stitch it. So I did that, got that done, mattress stitched the sides, and I got the back done, and so that's like super great. And then you have stitches on hold, so they're live stitches that you will then connect shoulders and that kind of stuff, pick up to do ribbing or whatever you're going to do. And then I was doing the front pieces, and I started having problems because then you're doing some shaping, which means you're decreasing, and I would drop a stitch, and this yarn is textured. It's not a smooth yarn, and I would drop the stitch and I couldn't see it. I couldn't see where I was supposed to pick it up, and I would go to try and pick it up, more would drop and more would drop, and I'm like, I can't see it. I'd take it off, rewind the yarn, start all over. I don't know how many times I started over, but it was a lot, like 6 maybe. Finally got it to work, and then it was like, oh, it was this one. And then I was like, I thought, well, let me just put the shoulders together. I think this works. Well, the pattern, because it's not a tested pattern necessarily, it's just a pattern generator. You put in, I have this gauge, as I'm getting, this many stitches per inch, this many rows per inch. I want it to be this big, and it does all the calculations. It doesn't give you instructions. It just says, do this, this, and this. Or, cast on this many. There's very limited instructions. So it had you decrease for the neckline, which was great. And then it says knit another 30 something rows. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, that seems weird. I went to attach it to the back, and I'm like, it's way too long. So I looked at the numbers, got on my calculator, and the front is 37 rows too long. So why did you have me do the 37 rows? So the second side, I didn't do that, and it fits, but now I've got this piece of the front that I need to take out, so I put in some waste yarn. That goes to the beginning of the decreasing for the neck. Oh, here, the decreasing for the neck. What I really think I need to do is just come here and take that 37 rows out. But by then I had redone this piece already because I had dropped stitches and whatever, did something wrong. Oh, as I'm doing the decreasing, the yarn would hang up or something, and I'd go across with my carriage and it would just take all the knitting off. And you're like, no, that's not what I want to do. Tear it all out, wind it back up. It was, and like I said, I wasn't feeling well. So to even get a little bit done, like an hour working on it, I was done. I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Can't keep tearing this out and redoing it. So then I figured out my whole standard gauge machine with the oiling and stuff, and started that sweater. And so now that my machine's working great, now it's a learning curve for me to just learn how to do everything. Because like I said, I haven't done a whole ton. So I had followed the V-neck pattern to a point, and then it was like, I don't know, I don't think the math's right. So let me go back to Abstract Knit Factory, which was the pattern generator that I used to make the swatchos. Let me use that one. Put in my numbers. The stitch count was only off by a couple, and I'm like, it's pretty good. So I tore it back, put it on a piece of yarn, tore out to there, put that back on the machine because the whole neck shaping and everything was different. And so I did that. I had to redo that a few times because I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's not right. And then she, on that one, it's like you have these neck stitches because you're going to pick up and do a ribbing, but it didn't say how many here. And I was just decreasing and doing my thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't work. Let me take it out to that point, redo that part. And it's still not quite right because it's telling me in her instructions to do some short row shaping at the top of the shoulder. So I think she's making it more rounded here, but I don't like the way that it looks. It's like really tight and kind of bunchy. Is it this one? Yeah. So what I think I need to do is take it out to right before I did the short rows, and just don't do short rows. Just do knitting for that many rows. Because I did on this side. So you have this on hold. You're knitting over here. You're doing your thing. Now you're going to go over here and do your thing. And I completely forgot about the whole short row thing because it says, well, just duplicate what you did on the other side. I'm like, okay, fine. I forgot to do short rows. So I cast it off thinking I'm done. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Now these two sides don't match. So it's not a machine thing. It's a me thing. But if I could get this to work, it's going to be awful pretty. So this is yarn that I dyed quite a while ago, a few years ago. And it was going to be part of a brioche sweater that I was doing with a gray, and I couldn't get the sweater to work. Couldn't get the brioche to work. It was the Joji Locatelli pattern newspaper, and I got to where she was decreasing, and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. And I know another friend that had struggled with it too. So I don't think it's just me. But anyway, I had this yarn, wanted to use it, wanted to make a sweater, so I'm close. I do need to redo the shoulders. This has been another one that's been torn out and redone and rehung, and I'm like, oh crap, I did that wrong. So that's my learning curve that's happening. And then I have to tackle the back to be the new pattern. So that's going to happen. And when it does, and I made ribbing on my ribber for the first time. I've only used my ribber to make socks. And I actually made ribbing on it, which was quite satisfying. If I can get this to work and get a fit, because I want to make sure it fits, then I've got plans for other sweaters. Like, see that yarn right there? That's going to be one of these in stripes if I can get this to work. So I was done at that time because it was like, a couple weeks of working on this same dang sweater, thinking I'm getting it. It's like, oh, I screwed up on that one. And I think, should I just find a pattern? It's really hard to find machine knitting patterns that aren't like the 80s graphic sweaters and stuff. Just want like a basic sweater. And with my machine, I can also knit lace, and I can do Fair Isle color work with a punch card. It has the ability to alter stitches and do all that. So I could take a basic sweater pattern with my numbers and everything, and change it up by just doing stripes or doing, lace or something like that. So I'm going to stick with this green sweater and make it work. It'll probably just be a short sleeve sweater because I don't think I have enough yarn to make sleeves. But that's going to give me the fit to make sure I have the fit right. So that's still a work in progress. I'm stubborn. I have to say, I am very stubborn. I'm going to make it work. But something I did figure out in working with this, so when I work with my knitting machine, I'll cake up the yarn, and I usually pull from the outside just because that has the least tension. But when it pulls, like when you wind your cake, it's winding kind of underneath. And so as it's unwinding, it's having to come out from underneath, and that would just kind of pull a little bit. And I kept thinking, what do I have? What can I do to make like a cord and make it stand up off of the table? So when I sew with coned thread, and I've saved some of these cones as I've emptied them. I've thrown a bunch away, but I still hung on to like 2 or 3 of them. And then I had the brilliant idea of putting my yarn on the cone, which is perfect. So I wind it on my winder, then I put the cone, here's my yarn on the winder, put my cone there, and when I slip it onto here, boom, it keeps it off the bottom. It just pulls right off. It can stand up by itself. It's brilliant. I can't wait to use up more yarn, and I'm really pissed that I threw some of these away. This is why you can't throw stuff away. I knew there would be another use for it, which is why I held on to them. Just didn't know what it was. It just took a while to find it, but I found it. So I'm super excited about this. That just like made my day. I'm so easily entertained. So in my I need to cast on something new, I cast on something new. A couple of things. One of the things is with my yarn that I got from Destination Yarns. This yarn is so pretty. It is Cowboy Take Me Away, and it was a colorway that she dyed to go. It was like the colorway for some fiber festival in Texas, DFW, or I'm not sure what it was. And she had an inspiration photo of like a cowboy at sunset kind of a thing, and in these exact colors. It is so pretty. And I thought it needs to be its own thing because it's just so pretty. And I've had this pattern in my Ravelry library for a long time, and it's called Be Simple. Be Simple Variations is what it's called. And it's just a very simple pattern. You knit like 6 rows of garter, and then you do a yarn over knit 2 together row, and then 6 rows of garter, and that's all you're doing the whole way. But it's knitting up so pretty, and it uses 1 skein of yarn, and I thought perfect. So for the most part, it's not pooling. A little bit here, it just depends on how many stitches are on the needle, but it's, for the most part, it's just spreading itself out really nicely, and I think it's going to be gorgeous. So it has been a very relaxing kind of knit. You just kind of go on autopilot, which, you need those kinds of projects. And since I don't enjoy knitting socks anymore, it's got to be stuff like this. It is a free pattern. It's an older pattern, but if you've got like that 1 skein of yarn that is like special, it's a special color for you, I would suggest it. It'll make a nice little like scarf type of thing. So that was fine and dandy. That was all good and everything. And then, going through yarn looking. I was trying to put together colors to make a striped version. So then I started digging into my yarn, and you're like, oh, this is such pretty yarn. I got to make something with it. And Christy over at Relatively Crafty has made several of these vests. And I've been wanting to make a vest. I've got a fingering weight one that's almost finished. Just needs the neckband, but it'll get done. Anyway, I am attempting the Audrey Vest. Now, I tried to do a vest from Drops before, but it wasn't this V-neck. And I thought, okay, let me just do the V-neck, whatever. And I don't remember what happened. I don't remember if it was a confusion in the pattern. I don't remember. But I was like, it didn't work for some reason. So I thought, well, why not just try it again? So I did. The pattern is written to do the front piece separate from the back piece, and you seam it up the sides. And I thought, well, that's kind of ridiculous when you're basically just knitting in the round. And this could bite me in the butt. It could totally bite me in the butt. But for now, this is what I'm doing. Now it's kind of scrunched on needles just because. So it has a split hem, which I had never done before, but I just knit what it said for the front, knit what I said for the back, which was the same. So I knit the ribbing, left it on a needle, cord and everything, and then just got another cord, put my needles in, knit another ribbing, and then just joined them in the round once I got through the ribbing. And now I'm just knitting in the round until I get to the armholes, which I will then split again and follow the directions that it says to knit for the front, follow the directions it says to knit in the back, and join them at the shoulders. That's the plan. Hopefully that's what the pattern is going to do for me. So this is yarn that I dyed a while ago. I think this is Fire in the Sky. And I had knit it into a 1 color brioche like shrug kind of thing, and I never wore it. It didn't look good on me. It wasn't a good style for me, and so I never wore it because I just felt like I was wearing like this big sack. And so I took it out because I thought, I love this yarn, and that's just dumb to have this sitting in my closet with all my other knits that I don't wear. But I knew I was never going to wear it. So it's DK weight, free pattern. And you go to their website and then you can print the pattern from there. So I haven't found a way to get that to go onto my Knit Companion, which I prefer to knit off of my Knit Companion. But for now, I'm just knitting on a piece of paper. I highlighted what I needed, and I'm just going to go with it and figure that out. So Christy's knit, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them at least, and they look super cute on her. So I'm hoping that I can finish mine and look just as cute. Knitting wise, that's pretty much it because I finished Jim's blanket. But I also I actually started this to take with me to Christmas, which we did have Christmas. It was wonderful. It was lovely. The coast was nice. We got to go down on the beach, and it was just really nice. So while we were at the beach, and because I have to bring something new, I started this. So this is a cross stitch that I purchased a few years ago. I don't think there's a date on anything. But it is yin and yang, as you can see, and it's like mountains and ocean. Love the pattern. I started this a couple of times too. So I started it just following the chart and trying to like cross off the chart, and it is tiny because it's a pretty big chart. And I was trying it on 18 count, which means it's 18 stitches per inch. So the higher the number, the smaller the gauge, because it's like you're fitting more of those stitches in an inch. And I just couldn't see it well enough. And I'm like, I can't do this. So I started it again on 14 count, which is like your standard. But I didn't like the way it looked because it felt like the X's, because you cross stitch, you're just stitching X's. The bigger the stitch, the more space there is from where you're going in, and the smaller it is, the tighter that is. And I feel like your embroidery floss just covers it better the smaller it is, but I just couldn't do 18. So I feel like Goldilocks. I found just the right one. It's not too small, and it's not too big, and I went with 16. So if you saw the finished one that I did, that was the moth, the Luna moth, that was on 16, and I did fine with it. I could see it. So, and meanwhile, I have come across Pattern Keeper app, which is an app to keep track. It's kind of like Knit Companion for cross stitch, and you can mark off where you are, and it like blanks it off, and you tap like what color you're working on, and it only highlights those colors. Makes it so easy to follow that it is a game changer for me. I did pay for the app. I don't think it was very much, like a few dollars, but and I don't know what availability there is on Apple. I have an Android. So I put that in my app, and it was like, I'm good to go. So it broke it down into quarters, and I'm just doing 1 quarter at a time. And so if you can see here, I'm doing like right about where that sun is. I'm cutting here and going across. So I'm doing this quarter. Almost done with it. And there it is. Isn't that cool? I'm really excited about it. I've just got this little bit of black to fill in down here, and it's done. And then I'll go to the next quarter, whatever it is. I don't know if it's down here or if it's over here. But it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm happy that it's working. And really, that app was the game changer for me. It really was, because it was so hard to keep track of it. And just to keep track of where I was and stuff. And now I'm doing fine. I had thought about dyeing the Aida fabric, and I was like, no, it just needs to have that white behind it, because just to give it the contrast, you know. So anyway, that's where I am so far. So as you can see, I was busy once I got well enough to be busy. I'm not necessarily finishing anything. That whole sweater on the machine thing has taken quite a bit of time, and it's been frustrating. It is a learning, experience, and I have to keep reminding myself there's a learning curve. The curve's pretty steep, steeper than I thought it would be, because I was having no problems knitting socks. So I'm like, I got this. So clearly not. But it will get done. Doesn't matter. It will get done. And that's all I got. So here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go to the coast with a friend. We're going to celebrate her birthday, and it's a girls' weekend, just her and I going and sitting and crafting. So I've already gathered a bunch of craft stuff, and I'm going to bring my knitting. Kevin and Ray started a make-along of making something out of a kit. So I'm going to start my needle punch project kit that I bought when I was in Houston. And we're only there for a couple days, and the way I roll, it's like, well, then we need to bring all this stuff because you never know what you're going to want to work on. It's the beginning of February, so more than likely the weather's not going to be great, and we'll just sit inside and craft and watch movies and listen to music and just, have girl time. So that'll be really nice. So thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out and being awesome. And I hopefully will be able to record a little sooner than later. I just kept kind of waiting till I felt better. But it was like, because I was doing so much work on that machine knitting stuff and failing, I was like, I don't have anything to show. So I was waiting, like, I'm going to wait till I get that sweater done, and then I'll show you. And obviously I can't, because that sweater is never going to get done. Anywho. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time. Bye.